Hey guys, how are you? Hope you're all having a fantastic evening. I'm back and I'm going to be doing another review, so hopefully you find this interesting enough to see through the whole thing. It's a French film, so spoken in the French language, English subtitles. I'm not really sure what genre to put it in. It's more of a comedy, very, very dark humour, but I think there is enough horror elements in the film to warrant it as a horror film. So I'm going to put it in the horror category. Whether or not you agree with that, if you've seen it, I don't know, but it's going into my French horror collection. It was made in 1996, directed by a very well-known Frenchman. He's regarded as a bit of a French legend. His name is Albert Dupontel. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the name, you will recognise him if you've seen the film Irreversible. He played the friend of Vincent Cassel's character. He was the guy responsible for bashing that guy's head in with the fire extinguisher. So hopefully that makes you recognise who this guy is. Before Irreversible, I'd heard nothing about him, so after I saw his performance in that film, I really, really liked him. So I did a bit of research and I realised that he was in fact a director as well. I got his latest comedy film called The Villain. He also starred in that one. That was really, really good. I've done a review of that, so if you want to check it out, please feel free to do so. Really, really happy with where I got with that one. And then I realised that he made one in 1996. Now, this is a much darker film than The Villain, and that's why I'm going to put it into the horror category rather than the comedy. It's not just a straight out comedy, it's one of those films that will disturb you. It's made in 1996, it's fairly old, not many people talk about this one, and this is called Bernie. And the story to Bernie is as follows. Bernie is a 30-year-old orphan who decides to leave his orphanage and find his parents. After an investigation, he meets Marion, a young heroin addict, and falls in love with her. He believes that his family were victim of a plot, and that is why they deserted him. So Albert Dupontel plays Bernie. He's the main character as well as the director. And Bernie is a mentally retarded man. He has no idea of how the world works. He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. Now, Bernie, when he was a baby, was abandoned, and he never understood why they abandoned him. So many, many years have passed. He's now 29 years old. Well, apparently he's 29 years old, but during the film he says he's 29 going on 32. So he could be 31. I don't know. But there's a lot of things that don't make sense with this character because, as I said, he's mentally retarded and he really does seem a confused sort of mess. So he's a middle-aged sort of man and he wants to leave this orphanage. Now, the director of the orphanage is having an interview with him. He doesn't want to let Bernie go because he's worried about his welfare. You know, he doesn't have a lot of money and he doesn't think he can cope with the outside world because he hasn't been exposed to how things work. He has had a very, very sheltered life. So Bernie ends up convincing this director of the orphanage that he needs to go out to find the truth, to bring some closure as to the mystery of where his parents are. So the director of the orphanage eventually lets him go, basically says good luck, and this is where the journey for Bernie starts. He, as I said, he's completely nuts. He is dangerous. He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong. And it turns out that the director's decision to let him go was a bad one. He ends up tracking down his father first. Now, his father is a bum. He's a homeless man living on the streets. Bernie basically, the father reluctantly teams up with Bernie because Bernie really wants to know where his mother is, and his father ends up telling him. Now, the mother has since left the husband and is now living with a very, very rich family. So she's really moved on with her life, but the father hasn't. And Bernie wants to be reunited with his family. So Bernie and his father, and by the way, his father is just as crazy as Bernie is. His father and Bernie go on a mission to kidnap the mother so that Bernie can have a happy lifestyle. Now, obviously, this is not going to be a happy lifestyle, but with Bernie's mentality, he thinks everything will be okay. So they kidnap the mother, and things don't turn out well for Bernie. And it turns out, he believes that there is a government conspiracy, which is why they deserted Bernie. So Bernie has a real hatred for everybody else. And as you can see from the front cover there, he is armed with a shovel, and he is prepared to belt anybody over the head who try to get between him and happiness. And his happiness depends on his family being together. So the mother is very, very reluctant to be around these people, but as I said, Bernie is hell-bent on having a happy lifestyle. He thinks that the mother and father are really happy to have him in their life, but they're terrified of him because, as I said, he's just so far disconnected from reality that it's scary. So then, as Bernie thinks that the family is going along very nicely, they end up being on the run because Bernie has upset a lot of people and, the police are after him. So it's basically a comedy of errors, straight from the point where they get the mother. I don't want to give anything else away. That's your basic synopsis. If you want to know how it unfolds and if Bernie finds true happiness, you're going to have to watch the film to find out for yourself. Now my thoughts on the film. This is a French film that I'd heard nothing about, and luckily a friend of mine here on YouTube, he was kind enough to send me a DVD-R. Now I looked it up, I haven't found it on Amazon, I can't find it anywhere here in Australia, so I'm really not sure if it's going to be easy for you to track down a copy, but if you can, I would highly, highly recommend it. This is a very funny film, but at the same time a very disturbing film, and it is extreme. There is some very, very good gore in this film. If you're a French extreme horror fan, you will love this one. It is not so much a straight-out horror film such as Inside Martyrs. It does have a very light-hearted element to it, but having said that, there is enough disturbing value in this film to warrant it as a horror film. The humour in the film is more nervous laughter, if you know what I mean. You're going to be laughing at things because they shock you. And you really shouldn't be laughing at them, and you'll be asking yourself, why the hell am I laughing at what just happened? I've never seen a film that make getting belted over the head with a shovel so funny. But it's just the way it's done. It's just a really sick sort of sense of humour, and Albert Dupontel is a fantastic director, as well as a fantastic actor. He plays Bernie to perfection. Bernie, as I said, is completely nuts, and he doesn't come across as a likable character, but you can feel sorry for the situation that he's in. And you can feel sorry that he didn't get the help that he deserved when he was younger. But Albert Dupontel painted his character in a way that you don't feel sorry for him because he is more scary than sympathetic. He is very, very angry at the world, and as I said, he really is a victim of circumstance, and that's the same sort of theme to a lot of French films. It's not so much the character you feel sorry for, it's the circumstances. And that's exactly what you'll get in this film. You won't, feel you don't feel a level of sympathy for any particular character, just the whole sort of situation that it's in. And that's what the French do so well, and it's no different in this film. The other characters, they were a little bit exaggerated, but I really liked that. I felt that it was a sort of surreal sort of atmosphere, and you're kind of living in the world that Bernie was in. So it takes you into the mind of someone who is seriously deranged. As I said, the gore is fantastic. There were some really, really funny scenes that will shock you and make you laugh. So it's just a really, really unique experience. Albert Dupontel is a genius. He's just as good a director as he is an actor. And this is just another French film that is, right there at the top. And this is why the French can't be beaten. They just continue to deliver something different, but equally as memorable. And this film is a very memorable one, and I would highly recommend you go out there and see it. I thought the ending was very, very fitting. I didn't know whether to feel depressed or happy. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but it's just a film that will make you feel uncomfortable. And as I said, none of the characters will make you feel sympathetic, but the film does not rely on sympathy. It just relies, it's a good time, but you have to have a particular sense of humor, because if you're easily offended, then you will find the majority of this film very shocking and uncomfortable. But if you're like me and you have a warped sense of humor and you can laugh at the most horrible things, then I would definitely have a look at this one. It is very, very brutal. Be very, very careful going into it, but if you want a good time and you don't take things too seriously, then Bernie will leave you very, very satisfied. For any French horror fan, this one is an absolute must, because I thought it was really, really fun and definitely worth the effort if you can track it down, no matter how expensive it is. Just like the previous film that I reviewed, any price for this film is worth it, because, as I said, this has got tremendous replay value, and I'll be watching this time and time again. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later.